A list of Rome, Reciprocal Organization of Associated Museums, museum websites by U.S. state, Canada, and the Caribbean. Chapter 1. A list of museums by U.S. state at sites.google.com/site/Rome museums/home/list-of-Rome-museums. Alaska. prattmuseum.org. Pratt Museum. Anchorage. anchoragemuseum.org. Anchorage Museum. Alabama. Auburn. jcsm.auburn.edu. Jewel Collins Smith Museum of Fine Art. Birmingham. uab.edu/cas/aeiva. Abrams Engel Institute for the Visual Arts, EIVA, UAB. Arizona. CaveCreekMuseum.org. Cave Creek Museum. Scottsdale. ScottsdaleMuseumWest.org. Scottsdale's Museum of the West. Phoenix. phxart.org. Phoenix Art Museum. Arkansas. Little Rock. archmfa.org. Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. California. Bakersfield. KernCountyMuseum.org. Kern County Museum. Berkeley. gtu.edu/care. Center for the Arts and Religion at the Graduate Theological Union. bampfa.berkeley.edu. UC Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive. botanicalgarden.berkeley.edu. UC Botanical Garden at Berkeley. Campbell. campbellmuseums.com. Campbell Museums. Cathedral City. moaw.org. Museum of Ancient Wonders. Chico. chicohistorymuseum.org. Chico History Museum. csuchico.edu/Turner. The Janet Turner Print Museum. csuchico.edu/Anth Museum. Valine L. Smith Museum of Anthropology. Coronado. coronadohistory.org. Coronado Museum of History and Art. Cupertino. cupertinohistoricalsociety.org. Cupertino Historical Museum. Davis. manettishrem.org. Jan Shrem and Maria Manetti Shrem Museum of Art. arboretum.ucdavis.edu. UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. El Segundo. automobiledrivingmuseum.org. Automobile Driving Museum. Escondido. San Diego Archaeology.org. San Diego Archaeological Center. Eureka. clarkmuseum.org. Clark Historical Museum. Goleta. Stowhouse.com. Rancho La Patera and Stowhouse. La Jolla. mcasd.org. Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego. Long Beach. csulb.edu/Carolyn-Campagna-Kleefeld-Contemporary-Art-Museum. Carolyn Campagna Kleefeld Contemporary Art Museum, California State University, Long Beach. mola.org. Museum of Latin American Art. Los Altos. losaltoshistory.org. Los Altos History Museum. Los Angeles. camlaw.org. Chinese American Museum. kafam.org. Craft and Folk Art Museum. fowler.ucla.edu. Fowler Museum at UCLA. grammymuseum.org. Grammy Museum. janem.org. Japanese American National Museum. Monterey. montereyart.org. Monterey Museum of Art. Moraga. stmarys-ca.edu/museum. St. Mary's College Museum of Art. Napa. derosaart.org. DeRosa Center for Contemporary Art. Nipomo. danaadobe.org. Rancho Nipomo Dana Adobe. Oceanside. oma-online.org. Oceanside Museum of Art. Oxnard. carnegieam.org. Carnegie Art Museum. Palm Springs. psmuseum.org. Palm Springs Art Museum. Palo Alto. Palo Alto History Museum.org. Palo Alto History Museum. Pasadena. PacificAsiaMuseum.org. Pacific Asia Museum. Pomona. Amoca.org. American Museum of Ceramic Art. Rancho Palos Verdes. PVARTCenter.org. Palos Verdes Art Center. Richmond. Theracy.org. Richmond Art Center. Sacramento. CaliudoMuseum.org. California Automobile Museum. CrockerArtMuseum.org. Crocker Art Museum. VergeArt.com. Verge Center for the Arts. San Clemente. SurfingHeritage.org. Surfing Heritage. San Diego. San Diego History.org/Sarah_museum.html. Junipero Serra Museum. SDAutomuseum.org. San Diego Automotive Museum. San Diego History.org. San Diego History Center. SDMart.org. San Diego Museum of Art. TimkenMuseum.org. Timken Museum of Art. San Francisco. AsianaRT.org. Asian Art Museum. CartoonArt.org. Cartoon Art Museum. Creativity.org. Children's Creativity Museum. CCCSF.US. Chinese Culture Center of San Francisco. CHSA.org. Chinese Historical Society of America. sfheritage.org. Haas Lilienthal House. ICASanFrancisco.org. Institute of Contemporary Art San Francisco. GLBThistory.org. GLBT Historical Society Museum. SFMCD.org. Museum of Craft and Design. TheCJM.org. The Contemporary Jewish Museum. WaltDisney.org. Walt Disney Family Museum. YBCA.org. Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. San Jose. CHCP.org. Chinese American Historical Museum. SJICA.org. San Jose Institute of Contemporary Art. SJMUSArt.org. San Jose Museum of Art. San Mateo. Curiosity.org. Curiosity. Santa Barbara. Museum.ucsb.edu. Art, Design, and Architecture Museum, UC Santa Barbara. MCASantaBarbara.org. Museum of Contemporary Art Santa Barbara. SBHistorical.org. Santa Barbara Historical Museum. SBMA.net. Santa Barbara Museum of Art. Westmont.edu/museum. Westmont Ridley Tree Museum of Art. Santa Cruz. Arboretum.ucsc.edu. UC Santa Cruz Arboretum. Santa Rosa. SchultzMuseum.org. Charles Schultz Museum. Santa Ynez. SantaInezMuseum.org. Santa Ynez Valley Historical Museum. Stanford. Museum.stanford.edu. Cantor Arts Center. Walnut Creek. RuthBancroftGarden.org. Ruth Bancroft Garden. Yuba City. Sutter County Museum.org. Sutter County Museum. Colorado. Denver. msudenver.edu/cva. Center for Visual Art, MSU Denver. CliffordStillMuseum.org. Clifford Still Museum. DenverArtMuseum.org. Denver Art Museum. Museo.org. Museo de las Americas. Golden. GoldenHistory.org. Golden History Museum and Park. Pueblo. Rosemount.org. Rosemount Museum. Connecticut. Hartford. TheWadsworth.org. Wadsworth Athenaeum Museum of Art. New Britain. New Britain Youth Museum.org. New Britain Youth Museum and Hungerford Nature Centre. New Haven. britishart.yale.edu. Yale Centre for British Art. artgallery.yale.edu. Yale University Art Gallery. Stores. benton.yukon.edu. The William Benton Museum of Art / University of Connecticut. District of Columbia. Washington. Corcoran.org. Corcoran Gallery of Art. freedomforum.org. Freedom Forum. gamusa.org. German American Heritage Museum. hillwoodmuseum.org. Hillwood Estate, Museum and Gardens. artsandartists.org. International Arts and Artists Hillier Art Space. nmwa.org. National Museum of Women in the Arts. phillipscollection.org. Phillips Collection, the museum.gwu.edu. The George Washington University Museum and Textile Museum. kriegermuseum.org. The Krieger Museum. newsum.org. The Newsum, Inc. Delaware. Dover. bigsmuseum.org. Biggs Museum of American Art. Milford. milfordthemuseum.org. Milford Museum. Wilmington. delaware.org. Delaware Art Museum. Wilmington. delmns.org. Delaware Museum of Nature and Science. Wilmington. fedcca.org. The Delaware Contemporary. Vintertour. vintertour.org. Vintertour Museum, Garden and Library. Florida. Coral Springs. coralspringsmuseum.org. Coral Springs Museum of Art. Delray Beach. oldschoolsquare.org/about/Cornell-Museum. Cornell Fine Arts Museum. Gainesville. harn.ufl.edu. Samuel P. Harn Museum of Art. Key West. oirf.org. Oldest House Museum and Garden. Kissimmee. osceolahistory.org. Osceola History / Pioneer Village at Shingle Creek / Osceola County Welcome Center and History Museum. Lakeland. pokemuseumofart.org. Polk Museum of Art. Lake Worth Beach. palmbeachculture.com. Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. Melbourne. fozenerartmuseum.org. Fusainer Art Museum. Miami. historymiami.org. History Miami. Miami. mokonomi.org. Museum of Contemporary Art North Miami. Miami. pamiami.org. Perez Art Museum Miami. Miami Beach. thebase.org. The Base Museum of Art. Mount Dora. Mount Dora Center fortarts.org. Mount Dora Center for the Arts. Naples. naplesart.org. Naples Art. North Miami. mokonomi.org. Museum of Contemporary Art North Miami. Orlando. omrt.org. Orlando Museum of Art. Quincy. gadsdenarts.org. Gadsden Arts Center. Sarasota. artsarasota.org. Art Center Sarasota. Sarasota. Ringling.org. The John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. St. Augustine. JimenezFatioHouse.org. Jimenez Fatio House Museum. Tarpon Springs. Leeparatner.org. Leeparatner Museum of Art. Vero Beach. verobeachmuseum.org. Vero Beach Museum of Art. West Palm Beach. Norton.org. Norton Museum of Art. Winter Park. rollins.edu/cornell-fine-arts-museum/index.html. Rollins Museum of Art. Georgia. Albany. albanymuseum.com. Albany Museum of Art. Athens. georgiamuseum.org. Georgia Museum of Art. Atlanta. AtlantaContemporary.org. Atlanta Contemporary. Atlanta. AtlantaHistoryCenter.com. Atlanta History Center. Atlanta. High.org. High Museum of Art. Atlanta. Carlos.emory.edu. Michael C. Carlos Museum at Emory University. Atlanta. CivilandHumanRights.org. National Center for Civil and Human Rights. Atlanta. TheBremen.org. William Bremen Jewish Heritage Museum. Augusta. ThemerRIS.org. Morris Museum of Art. Beaufort. GwinnettCounty.com/web/Gwinnett/departments/community services/parks and recreation/our parks and facilities/guide to your parks/Gwinnett Environmental Heritage Center. Environmental and Heritage Center. Columbus. ColumbusMuseum.com. Columbus Museum. Columbus. Westville.org. Historic Westville. Marietta. MariettaHistory.org. Marietta Museum of History. Savannah. Telfair.org. Telfair Museums. Hawaii. Honolulu. HonoluluMuseum.org. Honolulu Museum of Art. Idaho. Boise. BoiseArtMuseum.org. Boise Art Museum. Illinois. Chicago. AmericanWritersMuseum.org. American Writers Museum. Chicago. DuSableMuseum.org. DuSable Black History Museum and Education Center. Chicago. ART.org. Intuit, the Center for Intuitive and Outsider Art. Chicago. LeatherArchives.org. Leather Archives and Museum. Chicago. luc.edu/luma. Loyola University Museum of Art. Chicago. oi.uchicago.edu. Oriental Institute at the University of Chicago. Chicago. PritzkerMilitary.org. Pritzker Military Museum and Library. Chicago. RenaissanceSociety.org. The Renaissance Society at the University of Chicago. Chicago. DrieHouseMuseum.org. The Richard H. Driehaus Museum. Chicago. Museum.tv. Museum of Broadcast Communications. Freeport. FreeportArtMuseum.org. Freeport Art Museum. Lake Forest. LFLBHistory.org. History Center of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. Monmouth. WCHistoryMuseum.com. Warren County History Museum. Oak Park. UTRF.org. Unity Temple Restoration Foundation. Springfield. SpringfieldArt.org. Springfield Art Association of Edwards Place. Sycamore. MMNH.org. Midwest Museum of Natural History. Urbana. Spurlock.illinois.edu. Spurlock Museum. Indiana. Battleground. Tippecanoehistory.org. Tippecanoe County Historical Association, Tippecanoe Battlefield Museum. Indianapolis. IndyArtCenter.org. Indianapolis Art Center. Indianapolis. DiscoverNewfields.org. Newfields, Indianapolis Museum of Art. Lafayette. ArtLafayette.org. Art Museum of Greater Lafayette. Lafayette. HahnMuseum.org. Hahn Museum of Indiana Art. Notre Dame. SniteArtMuseum.nd.edu. Rockland Murphy Museum of Art, formerly Snite Museum. South Bend. SouthBendArt.org. South Bend Museum of Art. Terre Haute. Swope.org. Sheldon Swope Art Museum. Valparaiso. pnw.edu/Gabus-Arboretum. Gabus Arboretum at Purdue Northwest. Iowa. Davenport. FigArtMuseum.org. Fig Art Museum. Decorah. Vesterheim.org. Vesterheim. Des Moines. Des Moines Art Center.org. Des Moines Art Center. Iowa City. StanleyMuseum.uiowa.edu. University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. Sioux City. SiouxCityArtCenter.org. Sioux City Art Center. Kansas. Independence. IndependenceHistoricalMuseum.org. Independence Historical Museum and Art Center. Lawrence. LawrenceArtCenter.org. Lawrence Arts Center. Lawrence. SpencerArt.ku.edu. Spencer Museum of Art. Wichita. WichitaArtMuseum.org. Wichita Art Museum. Kentucky. Bowling Green. CorvetteMuseum.org. National Corvette Museum. Louisville. KMACMuseum.org. KMAC Museum. Louisville. SpeedMuseum.org. The Speed Art Museum. Paris. HopewellMuseum.org. Hopewell Museum / Historic Paris Bourbon County. Louisiana. Madisonville. LPBMM.org. Lake Pontchartrain Basin Maritime Museum. New Orleans. NOMA.org. New Orleans Museum of Art. New Orleans. NewcomeArtMuseum.tulane.edu. Newcomb Art Museum of Tulane University. Maine. Bangor. UMMA.umaine.edu. University of Maine Museum of Art. Portland. MaineHistory.org. Maine Historical Society. Portland. PortlandMuseum.org. Portland Museum of Art. Rockland. FarnsworthMuseum.org. Farnsworth Art Museum. Maryland. Baltimore. ArtBMA.org. Baltimore Museum of Art. Baltimore. TheBMI.org. Baltimore Museum of Industry. Baltimore. THEValers.org. The Walters Art Museum. Easton. AcademyArtMuseum.org. Academy Art Museum. Massachusetts. Adams. Susan B. Anthony Birthplace.org. Susan B. Anthony Birthplace Museum. Amherst. Amherst.edu/museum/Mead. Mead Art Museum. Boston. BostonAthenaeum.org. Boston Athenaeum. Boston. MKInstitute.org. Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate. Boston. bc.edu/sites/art museum. McMullen Museum of Art, Boston College. Brookline. LarsAnderson.org. Lars Anderson Auto Museum. Cambridge. HarvardArtMuseums.org. Harvard Art Museums. Vineyard Haven. MVMuseum.org. Martha's Vineyard Museum. Falmouth. Museumsonthegreen.org. Falmouth Museums on the Green. Falmouth. Highfieldhall.org. Highfield Hall and Gardens. Framingham. Danforthart.org. Danforth Art Museum at Framingham State University. HopArtCenter.org. Hopkinton Center for the Art. Lincoln. DeCordova.org. DeCordova Sculpture Park and Museum. North Adams. MassMocha.org MASS Mocha. Northampton. scemma.smith.edu. Smith College Museum of Art. Sandwich. Heritage Museum Sandgardens.org. Heritage Museums and Gardens. Sandwich. SandwichGlassMuseum.org. Sandwich Glass Museum. Stockbridge. BerkshireBotanical.org. Berkshire Botanical Garden. Wellesley. TheDavis.org Davis Museum at Wellesley College. Williamstown. ClarkArt.edu. Sterling and Francine Clark Art Institute. Williamstown. wcma.williams.edu. Williams College Museum of Art. Worcester. worcesterart.org. Worcester Art Museum. Michigan. Ann Arbor. aachm.org. African American Cultural and Historical Museum. Ann Arbor. lsa.umich.edu/Kelsey. Kelsey Museum of Archaeology, University of Michigan. Ann Arbor. lsa.umich.edu/mbg. University of Michigan Mathay Botanical Gardens and Nichols Arboretum. Ann Arbor. umm.umich.edu. University of Michigan Museum of Art. Ann Arbor. ummnh.org. University of Michigan Museum of Natural History. Battle Creek. Art Center of battlecreek.org. Art Center of Battle Creek. Bloomfield Hills. cranbrookart.edu/museum. Cranbrook Art Museum. Dearborn. Henry Ford Fairlane.org. Fairlane, home of Clara and Henry Ford. Detroit. dia.org. Detroit Institute of Arts. Detroit. mocadetroit.org. Museum of Contemporary Art Detroit. Detroit. TheWright.org. The Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. East Lansing. broadmuseum.msu.edu. Eli and Edith Broad Museum at Michigan State University. Grand Haven. tri-citiesmuseum.org. Tri-Cities Historical Museum. Grand Rapids. artmuseumgr.org. Grand Rapids Art Museum. Grand Rapids. uica.org. Urban Institute for Contemporary Arts. Grosse Pointe Shores. fordhouse.org. Edsel and Eleanor Ford House. Kalamazoo. keyarts.org. Kalamazoo Institute of Arts. Leland. lelandowhistory.org. Leelanau Historical Society. Marquette. nmu.edu/devos. Devos Art Museum at Northern Michigan University. Muskegon. lakeshoremuseum.org. Muskegon Heritage Museum of Business and Industry. Muskegon. lakeshoremuseum.org. Muskegon Historic Sites. Muskegon. lakeshoremuseum.org. Muskegon Museum of History and Science. Muskegon. muskegonartmuseum.org. Muskegon Museum of Art. Niles. fernwoodbotanical.org. Fernwood Botanical Garden. Saginaw. saginawartmuseum.org. Saginaw Art Museum. South Haven. libertyhydebailey.org. Liberty Hyde Bailey Museum. St. Joseph. theheritagemmcc.org. The Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. Traverse City. denosmuseum.org. The Denos Museum Center. Minnesota. Minneapolis. asmn.org. American Swedish Institute. Minneapolis. norwayhouse.org. Norway House. Minneapolis. walkerart.org. Walker Art Center. Minneapolis. wam.umn.edu. Weissman Art Museum. Morris. StevensHistoryMuseum.com. Stevens County Historical Society and Museum. Rochester. RochesterArtCenter.org. Rochester Art Center. St. Paul. Goldstein.design.umn.edu. Goldstein Museum of Design. St. Paul. MMA.org. The Minnesota Museum of American Art. Mississippi. Meridian. msarts.org. Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience the Max. Missouri. Kansas City. nelson-atkins.org. Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. St. Louis. EugeneFieldhouse.org. Fieldhouse Museum. St. Louis. Laumeier.org. Laumeier Sculpture Park. St. Louis. KemperArtMuseum.ustl.edu. Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum. St. Louis. Slam.org. St. Louis Art Museum. St. Louis. CarondeletHistory.org. Carondelet History Museum / Susan Blows Kindergarten. Montana. Billings. Artmuseum.org. Yellowstone Art Museum. Missoula. MissoulaArtMuseum.org. Missoula Art Museum. West Yellowstone. Museum of the Yellowstone.org. Museum of the Yellowstone. Nebraska. Lincoln. SheldonArtMuseum.org. Sheldon Museum of Art. Omaha. Jocelyn.org. Jocelyn Art Museum. New Jersey. Camden. CCHSNewJersey.org. Camden County Historical Society. Montclair. MontclairArtMuseum.org. Montclair Art Museum. New Brunswick. ZimmerleMuseum.Rutgers.edu. Zimmerle Art Museum. Newark. NewarkMuseum.org. Newark Museum. Princeton. ArtMuseum.Princeton.edu. Princeton University Art Museum. Trenton. State.nj.us/state/museum. New Jersey State Museum. New Mexico. Belen. ThroughTheFlower.org. Through the Flower Art Space. Santa Fe. O'KeefeMuseum.org. Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. Santa Fe. SiteSantafe.org. Site Santa Fe. Nevada. Las Vegas. BurlesqueHall.com. Burlesque Hall of Fame. Sparks. SparksMuseum.org. Sparks Heritage Museum. New York. Binghamton. Roberson.org. Roberson Museum and Science Center. Buffalo. AlbrightKnox.org. Albright Knox Art Gallery. Buffalo. Birchfieldpenny.org. Birchfield Penny Art Center. Buffalo. Hallwalls.org. Hall Walls Contemporary Arts Center. Corning. CMOG.org. Corning Museum of Glass. Corning. RockwellMuseum.org. The Rockwell Museum. Derby. ExperienceGraycliff.org. Graycliff. Hempstead. Hofstra.edu/museum. Hofstra University Museum. Huntington. Heckscher.org. The Heckscher Museum of Art. Ithaca. CornellBotanicGardens.org. Cornell Botanic Gardens. Ithaca. Museum.cornell.edu. Herbert F. Johnson Museum of Art, Cornell University. New Lebanon. ShakerML.org. Shaker Museum Mount Lebanon. New York. FolkArtMuseum.org. American Folk Art Museum. New York. FrankenthalerFoundation.org. Helen Frankenthaler Foundation. New York. Posterhouse.org. Poster House. New York. SugarHillMuseum.org. Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling. New York. Frick.org. The Frick Collection. New York. OneClub.org. The One Club. Riverhead. EastEndArts.org. East End Arts. Saratoga Springs. DanceMuseum.org. National Museum of Dance and Hall of Fame. Saratoga Springs. SaratogaAutomuseum.org. Saratoga Automobile Museum. Syracuse. Everson.org. Everson Museum of Art. Most.org. Milton J. Rubenstein Museum of Science and Technology. Watermill. ParishArt.org. The Parish Art Museum. Wilton. GrantCottage.org. Ulysses S. Grant Cottage State Historic Site. North Carolina. Asheville. blackmountaincollege.org. Black Mountain College Museum and Arts Center. Chapel Hill. ackland.org. Ackland Art Museum. Charlotte. bechtler.org. Bechtler Museum of Modern Art. Charlotte. Museum of the New South.org. Levine Museum of the New South. Cherokee. mci.org. Museum of the Cherokee Indian. Durham. nasher.duke.edu. Nasher Museum of Art at Duke University. Hickory. hickoryart.org. Hickory Museum of Art. Salisbury. waterworks.org. Waterworks Visual Arts Center. Raleigh. joellane.org. Joel Lane Museum House. Raleigh. ncartmuseum.org. North Carolina Museum of Art. Ohio. Akron. akronartmuseum.org. Akron Art Museum. Beechwood. maltzmuseum.org. Maltz Museum of Jewish Heritage. Canton. cantonart.org. Canton Museum of Art. Cincinnati. taftmuseum.org. Taft Museum of Art. Cleveland. clevelandart.org. Cleveland Museum of Art. Cleveland. cmnh.org. Cleveland Museum of Natural History. Columbus. columbushistory.org. Columbus Historical Society. Fremont. rbhayes.org. Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library and Museums. Hamilton. pyramidhill.org. Pyramid Hill Sculpture Park and Museum. Oberlin. oberlin.edu/amam. Allen Memorial Art Museum. Springfield. springfieldart.net. Springfield Museum of Art. Worthington. mcconnellarts.org. Peggy R. McConnell Arts Center. Oklahoma. Duncan. onthechisholmtrail.com. Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. Edmond. edmondhistory.org. Edmond Historical Society and Museum. Idable. Museum of the Redriver.org. The Museum of the Red River. Norman. ou.edu/fjjma. Fred Jones Jr. Museum of Art. Oklahoma City. okcmoa.com. Oklahoma City Museum of Art. Shawnee. mgmoa.org. Mabby Gerer Museum of Art. Tulsa. 108contemporary.org. 108 Contemporary. Pennsylvania. Allentown. allentownartmuseum.org. Allentown Art Museum. Allentown. americaonwheels.org. America on Wheels Museum. Doylestown. missionerartmuseum.org. James A. Michener Art Museum. Edinburgh. goodelgardens.org. Goodell Gardens and Homestead. Elkins Park. Beth Shalom Preservation.org. Beth Shalom Synagogue. Falsington. historicfalsington.org. Historic Falsington, Inc. Harrisburg. National Civil War Museum.org. The National Civil War Museum. Selected Special Exhibitions. Johnstown. yai.org. Heritage Discovery Center / Johnstown Children's Museum. Johnstown. yai.org. Johnstown Flood Museum. Laurel Hill Cemetery. thelaurelhillcemetery.org. Laurel Hill Cemetery. Media. tylerarboretum.org. Tyler Arboretum. Philadelphia. muttermuseum.org. Mutter Museum of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia. Philadelphia. PAFA.org. Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. Philadelphia. PhiladelphiaArtAlliance.org. Philadelphia Art Alliance. Philadelphia. PhillyMagicGardens.org. Philadelphia's Magic Gardens. Philadelphia. TallerPR.org. Taller Puerto Rico. Philadelphia. BarnesFoundation.org. The Barnes Foundation. Philadelphia. Penn.Museum. Penn Museum. Philadelphia. WoodmereArtMuseum.org. Woodmere Art Museum. Pittsburgh. CarnegieMuseums.org. Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh. Plus. Pittsburgh. TheFrickPittsburgh.org. Frick Art and Historical Center. Scranton. everhart-museum.org. Everhart Museum of Natural History, Science, and Art. Washington. pa-trolley.org. Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. Washington Crossing. WashingtonCrossingPark.org. Washington Crossing Historic Park. Westchester. ChesterCoHistorical.org. Chester County History Center. Rhode Island. Bristol. Coggeshallfarm.org. Coggeshall Farm Museum. Newport. NewportArtMuseum.org. Newport Art Museum. Newport. NewportHistory.org. Newport Historical Society Museum of Newport History. Providence. RIHS.org. Rhode Island Historical Society. Providence. RISDmuseum.org. RISD Museum. South Carolina. Anderson. AndersonArts.org. Anderson Arts Center. Charleston. GibbiesMuseum.org. Gibbies Museum of Art. Charleston. Halsey.cofc.edu. Halsey Institute of Contemporary Art. Columbia. scmuseum.org. South Carolina State Museum. Greenville. bjumg.org. Bob Jones University Museum and Gallery, Inc. Tennessee. Clarksville. CustomsHouseMuseum.org. Customs House Museum and Cultural Center. Nashville. FristArtMuseum.org. Frist Art Museum. Nashville. TNMuseum.org. Tennessee State Museum. Texas. Amarillo. AmarilloArt.org. Amarillo Museum of Art. Austin. BlantonMuseum.org. Blanton Museum of Art. Austin. WomenAndTheirWork.org. Women and Their Work. Beaumont. AMSCT.org. Art Museum of Southeast Texas. Corpus Christi. Art Museum of South Texas.org. Art Museum of South Texas. Dallas. DMA.org. Dallas Museum of Art. Fort Worth. CarterMuseum.org. Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Fort Worth. TheModern.org. Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth. Houston. Buffalo's OldYearMuseum.com. Center for African American Military History. Houston. CAMH.org. Contemporary Arts Museum Houston. Houston. CzechCenter.org. Czech Center Museum Houston. Houston. HMH.org. Holocaust Museum Houston. Houston. CraftHouston.org. Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. Houston. Menil.org. Menil Collection, The. Longview. LMFA.org. Longview Museum of Fine Arts. Midland. MuseumsW.org. Museum of the Southwest. San Antonio. BlueStarContemporary.org. Blue Star Contemporary. San Antonio. BriscoeMuseum.org. Briscoe Western Art Museum. San Antonio. McNayArt.org. McNay Art Museum. San Antonio. SAMuseum.org. San Antonio Museum of Art. Temple. CzechHeritageMuseum.org/memberships. Czech Heritage Museum and Genealogy Center, Utah. Salt Lake City, utahmoca.org. Utah Museum of Contemporary Art, Vermont. Var. vtgranitemuseum.org. Vermont Granite Museum, Middlebury. henrysheldonmuseum.org. Henry Sheldon Museum of Vermont History, Middlebury. museum.middlebury.edu. Middlebury College Museum of Art, Virginia. Abingdon. williamkingmuseum.org. William King Museum of Art, Charlottesville. Uva Frauenmuseum.virginia.edu. The Fraulein Museum of Art at the University of Virginia, Irvington. Steamboateramuseum.org. Steamboat Era Museum, Middleburg. nsl.org. National Sporting Library and Museum, Newport News. pfac-va.org. Peninsula Fine Arts Center, Norfolk. Chrysler.org. Chrysler Museum of Art, Norfolk. TheHermitageMuseum.org. Hermitage Museum and Gardens, Norfolk. Nauticus.org. Nauticus. Reedville. rfmuseum.org. Reedville Fishermen's Museum, Richmond. acum.org. American Civil War Museum, Richmond. icavcu.org. Institute for Contemporary Art at Virginia Commonwealth University, Richmond. vmfa.museum. Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, Richmond. virginiahistory.org. Virginia Museum of History and Culture, Virginia Beach. virginiamoca.org. Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art, Washington. Bainbridge Island. biartmuseum.org. Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, Bellevue. bellevuearts.org. Bellevue Arts Museum, Edmonds. cascadiaartmuseum.org. Cascadia Art Museum, Friday Harbor. sjima.org. San Juan Islands Museum of Art, Seattle. arboretumfoundation.org. Arboretum Foundation, Seattle. burkemuseum.org. Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture, Seattle. frymuseum.org. Fry Art Museum, Seattle. henryart.org. Henry Art Gallery, Seattle. namnw.org. Northwest African American Museum, Seattle. cwb.org. The Center for Wooden Boats, Tacoma. LeMaymuseum.org. LeMay America's Car Museum, Tacoma. museumofglass.org. Museum of Glass, Tacoma. tacomaartmuseum.org. Tacoma Art Museum, Walla Walla. kirkmanhousemuseum.org. Kirkman House Museum, Wisconsin. Appleton. myhistorymuseum.org. History Museum at the Castle, Appleton. troutmuseum.org. The Trout Museum of Art, Eau Claire. cvmuseum.com. Chippewa Valley Museum, Kenosha. kenoshapublicmuseum.org. Kenosha Public Museums, Madison. mmoca.org. Madison Museum of Contemporary Art, Manitowoc. rarwestartmuseum.org. Rarwest Art Museum, Manitowoc. wisconsinmaritime.org. Wisconsin Maritime Museum, Milwaukee. jewishmuseummilwaukee.org. Jewish Museum Milwaukee, Milwaukee. mam.org. Milwaukee Art Museum, Milwaukee. mpm.edu. Milwaukee Public Museum, Neenah. bergstrom-mahallermuseum.com. Bergstrom Mahler Museum of Glass, Port Washington. pwistery.org. Port Explorium. Racine. ramrt.org. Racine Art Museum. Sheboygan. jmkac.org. John Michael Kohler Arts Center. Sturgeon Bay. dcmm.org. Door County Maritime Museum and Lighthouse Preservation Society, Inc. Wyoming. Bighorn. thebrintonmuseum.org. The Brinton Museum. Cody. centerofthewest.org. Buffalo Bill Center of the West. Gillette. rockpilemuseum.com. Campbell County Rockpile Museum. Laramie. uwyo.edu/art museum. University of Wyoming Art Museum. Pinedale. mmmuseum.com. Museum of the Mountain Man. Powell. heartmountain.org. Heart Mountain Interpretive Center. Chapter 2. Canada Rome Museums. Alberta. Edmonton. youraga.ca. Art Gallery of Alberta. Manitoba. Winnipeg. humanrights.ca. Canadian Museum for Human Rights. Winnipeg. Plugin.org. Plugin Institute of Contemporary Art. New Brunswick. Fredericton. beaverbrook.artgallery.org/en. Beaverbrook Art Gallery. St. John. nbm-mnb.ca. New Brunswick Museum. Nova Scotia. Halifax. Art Gallery of Nova Scotia.ca. Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. Ontario. Delhi. delhimuseum.ca. Delhi Tobacco Museum and Heritage Centre. Grimsby. grimsby.ca/art-gallery. Grimsby Public Art Gallery. Grimsby. grimsby.ca/museum/main. The Grimsby Museum. Guelph. Art Gallery of Guelph.ca. Art Gallery of Guelph. Hamilton. Art Gallery of Hamilton.com. Art Gallery of Hamilton. Mississauga. Art Gallery of Mississauga.com. Art Gallery of Mississauga. Oakville. oakvillegalleries.com. Oakville Galleries. Ottawa. gallery.ca/en. National Gallery of Canada. Ottawa. oaggao.ca. Ottawa Art Gallery. Owen Sound. tomthomson.org. Tom Thomson Art Gallery. Port Dover. portdovermuseum.ca. Port Dover Harbour Museum. Sault Ste. Marie. bushplane.com. Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre. Simcoe. nca-ebdm.ca. Norfolk County Archives and Eva Brooke Donnelly Museum. Toronto. agaconmuseum.org. AGACon Museum. Toronto. AGO.ca. Art Gallery of Ontario. Toronto. gardnermuseum.on.ca. Gardner Museum. Toronto. thepowerplant.org. Power Plant Contemporary Art Gallery, The. Toronto. rom.on.ca/en. Royal Ontario Museum. Toronto. textilemuseum.ca. Textile Museum of Canada. Waterford. waterfordmuseum.ca. Waterford Heritage and Agricultural Museum. Whitby. stationgallery.ca. Station Gallery. Prince Edward Island. Charlottetown. confederationcenter.com. Confederation Center of the Arts. Quebec. Montreal. mccord-museum.qc.ca/fr. McCord Stewart Museum. Montreal. mbam.qc.ca/en. Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Quebec. mnbac.org. Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec. Quebec City. morin.org. Morin Center, Quebec City. mcq.org. Musée de la Civilisation, Saint-Jérôme. Musée Laurentide.ca. Musée d'Art Contemporain des Laurentides, Saskatchewan. Regina. Mackenzie.art. Mackenzie Art Gallery, Saskatoon. RemaIModern.org. Remi Modern. Chapter 3. Rome Museums in Other Countries. Cayman Islands, Georgetown. Museum.ky. Cayman Islands National Museum, Colombia. Bogota. mambogota.com/web. Mambo, Bogota. museonacional.gov.co. Museo Nacional de Colombia, Mexico. Monterrey. Nuevo León. marco.org.mx. Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Monterrey, Marco. Panama. macpanama.org. Mac Panama, Panama. Museodelcanal.com. Museo del Canal Interoceánico de Panamá,